Well, hello. I want to invite you to another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This week, I have a mighty plethora of pens, plus more that are uninked over there to show you, plus some other stuff. So I'm going to be babbling for a good long time. So let's dive into this. So if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. If you'd like to comment about any of the pens seen or anything else you see in this video, because this is a wild one, please feel free to leave a comment down below. So let's dive into the pens. So yeah, I said I have a lot of pens, so I didn't take very many with me. Last week I was in Fargo, North Dakota all week taking a class, and then I knew I'd do some traveling afterwards. I just didn't take very many pens. Now, oddly enough, they're all still inked, but to varying levels, but I didn't take very many, so I went a little bit nuts since I've been home. So let's take a look at my craziness. I have here a Kaweco 37G. I have my Moonman 1Kai Mini. I have a Lamy Dialog 3. I have a Lingmo Lorelei, Conklin Word Gauge, Lamy All-Star, Pilot Custom 823, which maybe you can tell. I see in my preview it's hard to tell, but it's getting close to empty. I have a Senator, we'll just call it Silver and Gray, because I can't find its model name or number anywhere. I'm crowdsourcing help on that. Sheaffer Taranis Scuderia Ferrari, which I think that was my review this week. I know the Senator is my review next week, but I think that was this week's. I have here a Parker Sonnet, which is part of the wild and craziness, and you're going, what? And lastly, some more wild and craziness, the Platinum 3776. As always, we'll be using the Bomo Art Journal. And, for reasons, we'll be using my Apica CD notebook for a while too. So my first pen, I don't think has been on the channel before. This is a Kaweco 37G from the 1960s. It's one of those slim black pens that I like. Piston filler, although it's hard to tell. Fingerprint magnet, because it's the shiny black plastic, that precious resin stuff. Ink window, it's a segmented ink window. It's blue and really hard to tell since it's full of ink. There, sort of get a taste of it. And then a lovely extra fine nib, which myuberpens.com says can go all the way to a triple broad, although I'm a little terrified at the prospect. Oops, extra fine. The ink in it. Why not? Kaweco Summer Purple. So, Kaweco ink and a Kaweco pen. My next one was a pocket pen. This was in my pocket a lot while I was doing the traveling post-Fargo. Moonman Mini 1Kai. It just is taking a ridiculously long amount of time to run it out of ink. It's an eyedropper. I think it's a fine. The ink in it is Colorverse. Lights on Ceres. Is it my most comfortable pen? Absolutely not. But it's so pretty. And for a pocket pen, wow. My Lamy Dialog 3 has definitely spent some time inking this week. or last week I should say. It's an oblique medium nib, although as several people commented last week, it sure looks kind of broad. Can you make out that it's an oblique? Let's see. There, you can kind of see. This is the kind of thing where I might want to do macro photography to really show it. But you can make out the oblique medium there, so you know I'm not making this stuff up. KWZ, a Polish ink. Iron Gall, which is why it's going to change color as you watch it. Turquoise. I'm actually kind of curious if KWZ ink is more... I know the Iron Gall tends to run acidic, but I'm curious if KWZ in general is, for their more standard inks, is more base, alkaline, or more acidic. I don't know. This is my Lorelei Lingmo, or Lingmo Lorelei, I forget which way it goes. Kind of a highlighter pen. Because the pen is actually holding a Pilot calligraphy medium nib on it. And the ink, interestingly enough, is Lamy Coral, which if you're into coral colored inks isn't bad. Apparently Coral died on The Walking Dead. That was a joke. That was a very bad joke, kind of making fun of how... Well, never mind. If you have to explain a joke, it makes it even worse, so I'll just shut up. Conklin word gauge. That is 100% gimmick right there. So this would be a standard Quizzy ink where I was asking about the pH, if it's more alkali or acidic. Because this is not an Iron Gall. But very nice spring type of color. And then I get to my Lamy All-Star, which I have not inked up in a long time. So I inked it up with an ink I have not used in a long time. This is a Rohrer and Klingner. Also, apparently an Iron Gall ink. My Pilot Custom 823, which last week was completely filled. So you know I took lots of notes. It turns out this wasn't the best choice of inks to put in it. It feathers a lot on the paper I was using. Looks good doing it, but it does feather. So I should have stuck with my usual Lamy black or something else. But I have a small bottle of this that somebody gave me, and for some reason I felt inspired to put it in this pen. Even though I carry a Visconti ink pot full of Lamy black that I could refill the pen from, and this way I have to clean the pen before I refill it. So that was well thought out. Anyway, this is a Senator. I'm calling it the gray and silver, for lack of a better name. I don't have a model number. I can't find model numbers on these Senator pens. I can find information about the company in general, but I can't find information about their specific pen models, the way I could, say, if I wanted to look up a Parker or a Montblanc or something. Don't know. There's no model number written on it. It feels good. It writes well. Apparently the plastic here has some sort of a give to it. It's got texture. There is a segmented ink window here, what do we call this, a wing nib? Oops. Gray and silver. It's a nice pen. I think it's an extra fine. The ink in it is Aurora black. Why? Because I'm pretty sure this 823 is going to be emptied out and I wanted a black pen ready to go. So there it is. And I was going to review that one next week anyway. I haven't actually filmed it yet, because I kind of have this faint hope that somebody will say, hey, that's what the pen is. Sheaffer Taranis. This is a Scuderia Ferrari Special Edition for 2013. I was lucky enough to purchase this at the price of a regular Taranis, but apparently they're getting a little harder to afford. I like the bright red color. All right, so my next pen deserves a little bit of introduction. I toured downtown Fargo, and I either have uploaded or will upload a video with some footage of downtown Fargo. And I visited a store that sells fountain pens. Now, it's a little up in the air whether I'll be able to show you the footage from the inside of that store or not yet, which is part of why the video isn't up yet. But anyway, it's a store that sells a variety of pens, various, what do you call them? Houseware-y, decorate-y, plate type things. New books, used books, just kind of a big variety store. So I looked through it and I felt this need, like I should purchase a pen since I'm making a big deal about the pens. And he had some vintage pens, some new pens, a bunch of Lamy pens. You probably don't know this, but I've always had a soft spot for Parker, and I've had an interest in a Parker Sonnet. Now, I've never actually gone so far as to pull the trigger on one, mainly because I have a Baur, however you say it, that, is it 801? That I reviewed it some time back. That has a scratchy nib, and I always just kind of figured, well, that's your Parker Sonnet. But I had a Parker Sonnet for sale, and so I decided I wanted to feel it. And doggone if I didn't walk out of the store with it. That was not in the budget. I was planning to buy a much cheaper pen. So, this is a Parker Sonnet. It did come with its own converter. Right at the moment, I'm using the enclosed cartridge of Parker Quink, which is ink I used for about 20 years before I fell off the deep end of the pool of fountain pens and started trying other types of black. So, it was bringing back memories of why I liked it. Like, this is a black that does very well on lower cost paper. Now, I'm going to set this notebook aside. I may bring it out again toward the end because of this pen. Now, you haven't seen this pen probably in over a month. This is a Platinum 3776. This is the one with the celluloid finish, which apparently Platinum is bringing them back out into the market again. I guess they just ran out of celluloids. They had to stop making these for a while, but they must have celluloid again. Beautiful pen. It's one of my more beautiful pens. I had to stare at it lovingly while I said that. But anyway, I am engaged in a months-long project with Platinum. I filled all these up back in May, and then once a month I'm going to uncap one and see how it writes. and put all that footage together into a final video. Probably you won't see it till November, maybe early December. But anyway, it is time for this one. The reason this one is first is because unlike the rest of my platinums, this one is not a slip and seal. So all the slip and seals are going to get at least 2 months of sitting without being used. This one, is a different material and everything, but I wanted to compare the nibs and I wanted to see how it's stored. Now, I didn't have an extra fine nib. I was sorely tempted when I saw that new color, the turquoise color, came out. But I spent the money on this instead. And I can't say I'm sorry, even though the turquoise one is very pretty. So someday I'll get an extra fine nib for a platinum. It's just not today. So what you're about to see is the little bit of footage that's going to go in when I test this uncapped. So I don't know how it's going to write. So right here is the word broad. This is where I recorded it. Now you may have noticed a date when I started this Pens in Use, which was June 22nd. Truth is, oops, I may have zoomed that too much. Truth is, it's not June 22nd. It's actually June 20th as I record this, because I learned my lesson from that week I was sick. Hot damn. So, even though it doesn't have the slip and seal mechanism, after 1 month of sitting there unused, it started right up just like a champ. I really honestly expected it to fail. If you look inside the cap, there is a plastic liner, which I think is part of the reason why. The ink, of course, in all of them is a platinum cartridge, a cartridge of platinum black, I should say. So I am quite thrilled that that worked out. Now we'll have to see how the rest of these do. Over a month, May 7th. Dang, I should have done that last week. Wow. Well, was it last? Oh yeah, last week I was in. Well, I don't know where I am. I'm so confused. I want to say that that week would have been when I was so sick. But just to give you a quick look here, preview of things to come. I did the soft fine, soft medium, medium broad, coarse, and music nib. And there will be various rating samples, and you'll get to see it performed. So, that was exciting. I feel like just for posterity, I need to put it in here. So I said that this week's Pens in Use is going to get a little wild and woolly because I have a few things to show you. So let me do that right now. So what you're looking at here is a collection of my Centro pens. You saw me do a review of this pen. This is my Centropen 100820. I marveled at it, this remarkable celluloid. And of course, this amazing nib. None of these are inked up, by the way, for this. I felt like I had enough pens inked up. A little condensation inside the ink window, but I'll leave it here uncapped for reasons. It came with a companion pencil, which I'm not really into mechanical pencils, but whatever. It was gold-filled trim and everything, just fabulous. So later on, this is one of the videos that I will be doing soon. I don't know when. This is a Centropen. Now this one actually has a number written on it, 10014, and then there's a 313, which I don't know what it means. Centropen, of course, was a Czechoslovakian brand, and they survive on in a modern form in the Czech Republic. This one really has no ink window, but that makes sense because it's not a piston filler. It has a captured converter. But the exact same celluloid. Now, I had a comment a while back. I do have a blog which I have not been religious about keeping up with. And on this blog, I had somebody comment that this is probably not a Centropen because Centropen always puts their model on the side, which here's another Centropen. Possibly. No number on its side. And he also pointed out that the nib does not say Centropen, it says Isko. So he suggested actually that it might be a Yugoslavian pen. I think that's where I got that idea from. Which I didn't know there was such a thing as a Yugoslavian pen. And yes, I know that's another country. It doesn't exist anymore. If you check out the branding here, Centropen, not Isko. So that was interesting. And I started to wonder, well, maybe this is not a Centropen, although it's the same celluloid. So I ran across some more pens. I searched Isko specifically. This one is a plain black pen, piston filler. Nothing too fancy, very basic. By golly, that's an Isko nib. And this was listed as an Isko pen. Now, one of these days, I'm going to have to ink these both up and show you, but they write the same. The nib on this one, the celluloid one, is a little larger, but they both have that amazing brush-like flex. This one is steel, and it's a nail. Now, this is my other Isko pen. And by the way, you might notice some similarity in the ink window and the filling mechanism. This is another Isko. Gorgeous, gorgeous red celluloid. I mean, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Little smaller pen, but same basic design as this one. Just smaller. No ink window in it, though. Interesting. And what's that? Isko. An even smaller Isko, but an Isko nonetheless. And you open this up. Same, oops, sorry you didn't see that. Same filling mechanism. Just no ink window to see it with. So I was a little mystified. Now, unfortunately, this page is copyrighted because it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to My Uber Pens. I will put a link to it and let you investigate for yourself. But they are selling this pen right now for a bit more than I paid for mine because theirs is in better shape and properly restored. Mine needed a little work, and obviously I didn't do the greatest job. But it's sold as a 1960s Centropen Lady Celluloid Deep Pearl, Amber Red, and Brown Flexible 14-karat nib fountain pen. And let's see. They're calling it one of the most beautiful original Centropen pens, the Lady Pearl model, to complement the Centropen flagship pens at the time made from the very same material and style. Would that be this one? I will put a link to this too. Now, both of these pens have been... I bought this pen from My Uber Pens. Somebody else bought the one like this. But I'll put a link to both descriptions so you can just take a look. You'll find out how much I paid for this, which will probably shock you. But it's a mystery now. And this is just like the Senator pens I mentioned earlier. I want to know, how do they know what these two pens are? This pen is still a complete mystery. I don't know what its model is. So if somebody could point me in a direction where I can learn more about Centropen and their models, that would be super awesome. I'm assuming that's called a lady's pen because it's the smallest of the three. awkward. I've had suggestions that this one might have been special made for somebody high up, possibly for external sale, not even for in the Czechoslovakia. Just don't know. And this one is just, this matches what I'm used to with a lot of the Eastern pens. I should say Central European pens. My Russian pens and so on, Soviet pens, I should say, are a lot like this. Not with quite as nice a finish on them, but same filling mechanisms and so forth. And same kind of nib. So I just don't know. And I would welcome any information. I may even have to try contacting myuberpens.com to find out how they're finding this stuff out. Because I'm just like, I don't know. So, that's one of my exciting things going on right now. This actually showed up on myuberpens.com while I was in Fargo and disappeared very quickly from there. Don't know why. It could be because I posted the link to Fountain Pen Network to ask for opinions there, which I got no help. But anyway, these are my babies. So last week, I think I told you, I went to Fargo. I spent the week in Fargo taking a chemistry class. We held the class at Fargo North. I'm probably going to do a little walking around video of that neighborhood and the NDSU campus. So I'll save most of my comment for there, but I'll just say it was interesting to see a large high school. There's three public high schools in Fargo, and I believe there's one or two Christian high schools. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, I was at Fargo North, which is the smallest of the three. Oddly enough, it's a 9 through 12 building, and yet they hold twice as many students as my entire school district. So, it was, like I said, a large high school to me. Billy the Redneck coming in to see how them big city folks is living. But it was a very good class. It was a diverse. There were people from schools like mine, and there were people from the Fargo schools and the Minot schools who just teach AP chemistry all day. So it was a good mix of people in there, and I recommend it if you're a teacher and have access to NIMSY and MSI training, laying the foundation. I would suggest doing so. It is high quality instruction, and it really does help you to look at the quality of your own instruction, which is why I went there and why I did it a second time. And next year they're holding it in Minot, and I'll be going to Minot. So, of course, in Fargo, I had to take advantage of it. I probably am a little heavier because I was eating out. Now I got to work it off in the garden and walking around town again. But anyway, I went downtown and did some exploring. Fargo has a vibrant downtown. So after the classes were over, I went back to the downtown with the camcorder. I stayed an extra day just to do this and walked around for about 2 hours. Now, part of it was in that fountain pen store, which I said I may or may not be uploading that footage. So I was in downtown Fargo. I really enjoyed it. I took lots and lots of footage with the camcorder. Got home, and I can't access any of it. I'm pretty sure I did something wrong, just the way it is, but yeah, I'm very sad because I had several good videos in mind with that footage, because I did downtown Fargo, I did a walk around the NDSU campus, and I did a walk around the Fargo North High School and the area around it, and I did the big, long walk around downtown Fargo, and all of that footage is gone. But I felt like I should share this. This is the Zandbroz variety store. This is one of the stores I stopped at in Fargo. I actually purchased the Parker fountain pen there, the Parker Sonnet, and I just wanted to share what a Zandbroz is. Now, I visited the one on the right side of the screen, the Fargo one. There is one in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but I've never been in it, so I can't really comment on it. And by the way, downtown Fargo is quite vibrant and interesting. So if you go to the About Us on Zandbroz Variety, and I do have a link down below to this website, it's a store opened by two brothers. The second sentence is they would open a store that they would want to shop. So what they did is they actually purchased the store in Sioux Falls in 1989. Bookstore with a lot of other stuff in it as well. And then they opened a second one up in Fargo. This is, of course, before there was a Barnes & Noble. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Before there was a Starbucks. Before there was an internet shopping. So I like this store because it's a store that survived despite all the changes in the retail market. When I click on the Sioux Falls link, I really feel no connection to this, so I'm clicking on the Sioux Falls link. I've never been to this store in Sioux Falls, but I have been several times to the Fargo version. I like it a lot. The Fargo version has quite a large bookstore in it. This is actually in the used bookstore section of it. Here we go. Here's the new book section. They have a bookstore in it, full of new books. A lot of interesting books that you may not necessarily find in a Barnes & Noble. I just happen to like this picture because one of the books here is called Living with Books. Hey, story of my life. And then in the back of the store, where this is taken, there is a used bookstore. They specialize more in first editions and more collectible used books. I buy used books because I like used books. So I did end up buying a few used books here. I spent a lot of money at this store. They sell gift type items. I'm really not into that at all. But they also sell fountain pens, both new and old. I purchased the Parker Sonnet there. They had several vintage fountain pens. It was quite nice, actually. I think I could have spent quite a lot of money in Fargo if I'd been carrying more money with me and hadn't been like, ooh, that was a lot of money on that. So who knows? So I will probably be back to Zandbroz. Definitely next time I'm in Fargo, I'll be back. But if you're looking for fountain pens, whether you're in Sioux Falls or you're in Fargo, I would suggest stopping at Zandbroz. There is also an Etsy store. Let's see if I can find it here real quick. Yep, there we go. So they have an Etsy store also with fountain pens. And various other items, apparently. Let's see. 10 fountain pens for sale right now, along with a lot of other items. So, it's, the store itself was quite a find. And, yeah, if you're in Fargo or Sioux Falls, I'd suggest stopping in. And then, I went driving. So I could have come straight home, straight on the interstate, which I'm already uploading the to Fargo leg of the trip in my driving videos. Well, I went on the interstate as far as Castleton, North Dakota, which is the home of the Central Cass High School, which, since you're probably not from North Dakota, you don't know, the school mascot at Central Cass is the squirrels. And I thought, there's got to be a squirrel mascot around the school somewhere. Some way I can pose with it and get a selfie or footage or something. Sadly, the school was under renovation. You couldn't get near it. So we'll put that on the bucket list, I guess. I thought even I'll buy like a high school t-shirt or something at one of the stores in town. Well, I think I've told you I'm an early morning riser. I was in Castleton long before the stores were opening. So that didn't happen either. I guess I could have dawdled in Castleton for a while, but I was eager to get on the road because of some of the later stuff I wanted to do. So I got on the road. I headed north on Highway 18 through Arthur and Hunter, North Dakota, which you've never heard of because they're very small. But I had actually been in Arthur the week before for the Governor's Summit on Innovative Education, which is another video I need to upload very soon. So I went out to the school. I got some footage of the outside of the school just so I could show, hey, it's out in the field and this is the school, because I didn't really feel comfortable doing that kind of footage while I was with other people. Oh, wait, guys, I got to get an outside footage of the school here. Yeah, nobody gets my whole YouTube thing. Most of my colleagues don't even know I do it because they wouldn't care or they'd think it was weird. But anyway, so I continued on north on 18 most of the way. There was a switch, which I don't remember, somewhere along the way. Maybe it was in Cavalier. Well, anyway, beautiful country. It's very different. It's very flat compared to where I live. I need to show you my 3D model of North Dakota sometime. You'll see I'm in the interesting part of North Dakota. But the very northeast corner gets interesting because it's much wetter up there, also colder, but much wetter, more heavily forested, and it gets a lot more topography. So eventually I made a wrong turn, but I kind of corrected it from my map. I eventually made my way to Walhalla, North Dakota, which you've probably never heard of. It's one of the first towns settled in North Dakota. It's all steep hills, kind of like a Pennsylvania town, actually. Not as steep as Leeds, South Dakota, if you remember that video, but it's steep. And it was attractive in its way. I mean, it's very... I want to say the feeling I got, which I can't put into words why, is I had the feeling like I was in Canada. Now, Walhalla has been looking for 2 science teachers. It's something I've considered. It would be a pay raise from where I'm at now, but for reasons I'm staying where I'm at. But it was neat to at least see the school and see the town. Definitely a smaller school than where I'm at right now. In a smaller town. But anyway, I toured around the town a little bit, and then I headed west on was it County Road 55? I'll have to, like I said, I'm doing this from memory. But anyway, through the Pembina Gorge, which the Pembina Road or Pembina River runs through it, and that's what carved the Pembina Gorge. And it's all forested. I even put a picture of it up on Facebook. I should put one up on Instagram so people can actually see it. This picture right here. And I posted on Facebook and I said, hey, guess what state this is in? Some of my Pennsylvania friends are like, are you home right now? Nope, I'm in North Dakota. So yeah, it looks not like what you picture for North Dakota. So I drove through that. I'm definitely going back sometime when I have time to explore and dedicate just to that. Because damn, that was beautiful. And then I headed south. I passed Nakoma, which, you've never heard of. Nakoma used to have a missile defense station, which looks like something out of Star Wars. And I've seen some very good pictures of this that really bring out that alien aspect of it. Mine didn't do it justice, but it was the wrong time of day. And I've even seen a few pictures taken by people who I think got in through the fence or they're not supposed to. It's abandoned, but it's still government property. So I behaved. I stayed outside the fence. But then I headed south again from there down to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. I didn't really tour Devil's Lake because I could see I needed to be smart with time so I wouldn't be driving in the dark. Devil's Lake, the town, I've walked around it before, but it was before I got into doing video, and I did take some photographs. But it was before I really got into this video thing at all. I had a YouTube channel then, but very rarely uploaded to it. You may have actually heard of Devil's Lake for a couple of reasons. There is I can't remember the name of the movie. It's a movie about a Christian summer camp that's very terrifying. And I say that because it's You know, they're blessing George Bush because he was president at the time the documentary was made. She's teaching them speak in tongues, just a whole bunch of oddness. Teach them to... Well, anyway, I don't need to review that. This is a happy video. The other reason you might have heard of it is Devil's Lake is growing. The lake itself is growing. And it has flooded out towns, it's flooded out farms. State of North Dakota has had to raise roads all around it. It just keeps getting higher and higher. Like the town of Minnewacan. I have pictures of that from another time I was up there. Used to be 9 miles from Devil's Lake. Now Devil's Lake is in the town of Minnewacan. They've had to abandon large parts of the town. They had to abandon their school and build a new one. All because this lake just keeps growing. Now, there is a point where it's going to have a natural drainage out, which Canada won't be happy about because it's going to end up in Canada, and whatever creepy parasites or whatever have been isolated will now be in Canada. So it's getting close to that point. Now, I guess that whole part of the state used to be under Lake Agassiz, but that was a couple of years before Canada existed, and before the United States existed, so another story. From Devil's Lake, I went south along the shore of Devil's Lake to Fort Totten, where I have taught several summers. That's on an Indian reservation, so I kind of toured around that briefly. Then from Fort Totten, I went to New Rockford, where I usually stayed while I was teaching in Fort Totten. Toured that a bit, and then drove down to Carrington, where I had supper. And then I toured Carrington a bit. Then from Carrington, I headed a little bit west, a lot south. I'll have to look up the road when I finally get to that part of the video, but it was through prairie pothole country, all the way to Woodworth, North Dakota, and then south to Medina, North Dakota. And the road is in much better shape than when I last traveled it. They have built up where the water had actually flooded parts of it and caused parts of it to crumble. They had really fixed it up nicely. And yet it kept the character, the curves, and the closeness to the water. So kudos to Foster County and Stutzman County for fixing that up. From Medina, I drove west on the interstate to Steele, North Dakota, where I spent the night. At that point, I realized, yes, it's still daylight, but I don't belong on the road anymore. So spent the night in Steele. Toured Steele the next morning. I got a little confused because they were doing some construction in Steele. But I did it. I got around it as best I could. And then I went to Bismarck, where stopped at a Barnes & Noble. And then at the request of one of my viewers, I just briefly toured around Bismarck. I didn't spend long, but I thought, I'll get the downtown area. I made sure to go by the Bismarck High School because I asked which high school they graduated from. Bismarck, like Fargo, has 3 high schools, Legacy, Century, and Bismarck High. So they graduated from Bismarck High, so I drove past that. I haven't looked at the footage to see how well it shows up, but I did. And then I drove west to Mandan and got on Old Highway 10, also called the Red Trail, that used to be the connection across the state, the east-west connection before Interstate 94 was built in the 60s. So I followed that from Mandan all the way to Belfield, North Dakota. A lot of pouring rain during part of that, but I toured the little small towns that were along the way, and it was kind of fun, although it really added to the trip. And then from Belfield, I came south to where I live on Highway 85. So it was a long, long trip, but I think it was worth it. And so I know what my driving videos are going to be for the next probably few months, unless I do like an epic 2-hour driving video sometime. So anyway, just so I can close the notebook and finish this. Sorry. So if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. If you know anything about the Senator pens or the Centro pens, or would just like to comment about anything I talked about in this video, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And as always, I thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.